Well, welcome back to our extended coverage of the flood crisis in southern Queensland and northern New South Wales. Of course, the big issue in Brisbane at the moment is the issue of water. There's such concern about the conservation of water. If people don't conserve it, there is a likelihood that we could run out of water. There is problems with the treatment plants at Mount Crosby. The water basically in the Brisbane River is so silted up from the sediments that have come down from the Lockyer Valley, from all that lovely farmland in the Lockyer Valley. It's actually 4 times thicker, the sediment in the Brisbane River at the moment, than it was in 2011. Of course, the Mount Crosby treatment plant can't deal with that, so they're having to try and release water from Wivenhoe Dam, cleaner water from the dam, to try and flush out all the sediment that's in the river at the moment. Now, it could be a couple of days before that treatment plant comes back onto line. So the issue, Bill, right now is that people need to understand that they are only to use water for cooking and for showering and cleaning their teeth. They are still able to drink the water. You don't have to boil the water. The Premier assured us that the water is safe, but that's the big issue at the moment. Now, also other big issues happening in northern New South Wales, of course, in Grafton. Terrible flooding situation there. Our James Tobin is there, and James, bring us up to date. Are things improving there?
Good afternoon, Sharon. Well, certainly an historic day for the town of Grafton today. Although the good news is it seems at the moment we can breathe a slight sigh of relief. It appears at this point that the river peaked at 8.08 around midday today, and it's slowly fallen over the last few hours to now be sitting at 7.95, which is good news for locals. Still, the SES has evacuation orders in place for areas of North Meadow, of Dovedale, Ulmurra, of Rushgrove and of Cowper. That's affecting around about 3,300 people, and certainly for a large portion of Grafton, evacuation warnings are still in place. The SES have dealt with around about 3,300 emergency calls today, and they've been busy sandbagging as areas of the levee were breached by the floodwater. However, they managed to hold those waters back with sandbags. So at this point, the SES are not committing to saying that the river is now on its way down, but certainly the trend for the last few hours has been that the waters are receding. So the locals are now breathing a slight sigh of relief. Sharon?
James, I guess locals there are very used to flooding. It's the 4th time the river has flooded there in 4 years. Any indication of how long it's going to take before the water completely recedes?
Look, Sharon, the Clarence River is a huge river, and there is a really large amount of water that still needs to come down. And as I mentioned, the SES are still not committing to saying that there isn't more water yet to come, which could see levels rise again. So at this stage, we're still not out of the woods yet. Still, evacuation orders are in place and evacuation warnings for a large part of the town. So certainly, it's not a time to be too relaxed.
Yes, well, once those waters do recede, there's going to be a big clean-up there in Grafton. James, thank you very much for that update. Now, stay with us here on 7. We're going to come back and we're going to look at the water situation here in Brisbane. We'll have the latest on the river levels, and that will be coming up after a commercial break. And is there any message that you'd like to get out, Tara? Obviously, in these sorts of situations, people sometimes don't do the right thing. Are there important messages that need to get out to the public?
Yeah, look, our message is always the same. It's very simple. If you are faced with floodwaters, don't walk through them, don't drive through them, don't ride through them. And if you need assistance, contact us on 132 500.
All right, Tara McCarthy, very good advice there. Thank you very much for your time. We'll now cross back to Bill at Southbank, and Bill, the river here is certainly receding. There's a lot of that river wall over there now visible here at Kangaroo Point. I imagine down there at Southbank you're seeing a similar thing.
Yeah, Sharon, the water level has dropped markedly here, probably almost half a metre at this stage now, but it has picked up, I must admit. It's flowing quite fast down here, and it's flowing around the bridge pylons pretty quickly. Only a small amount of debris washing down, which is probably an indication that things aren't going too bad on the river at the moment. A very warm day, as you would appreciate, Sharon. It's very warm and humid. There's not a breath of breeze in the air anywhere, so it's going to be very warm for anyone out there at the moment that's having to deal with a flood clean-up. But speaking of clean-ups, let's go down and check in with Amanda Abate on the Gold Coast. Amanda, what's the latest on the coast?
Well, Bill, a very big clean-up is already underway. Thankfully, we have some clear skies today. The rain has cleared and those winds have dropped back significantly. So residents have begun cleaning up, particularly on the southern end of the coast. We've seen some extraordinary pictures today that were taken yesterday at the peak of those wind gusts. The Coolangatta Sands Hotel lost its roof at the peak of the storm yesterday, and we've seen some dramatic pictures of how corrugated iron, sheets of iron, were just torn away, thrown onto the road, and luckily missed cars which were driving below. So we've spoken to some of the residents there. Of course, without a roof, they were exposed to the elements as the rain kept pouring down. But they're upbeat. They're actually very optimistic down there. They understand they've got a big clean-up ahead, but they say they're thinking of the people up in Bundaberg and other parts of Queensland that are also copping a battering as a result of this weather.
What other areas, Amanda, suffered some damage down there? We know famously, I think it was yesterday, we were watching all those images of Misha's restaurant at Burleigh Heads on the ocean front there getting pounded.
That's right, and we've been down there this morning. They've actually got security there, just making sure people stay well away because it's still very dangerous there. There are large waves still crashing against the rocks there, so they've got security asking everybody to keep a safe distance. The beaches are again closed today too, so we've seen more of that foam and debris washing up. The shark nets were also torn from their anchors as well over the past few days with those wild seas that we've seen, so they're potentially being washed ashore as well. So the advice from lifesavers, stay well away from the beaches. The other update that we have, well, the flood threat here on the Gold Coast has eased. Some northern areas, rural communities to the north on the Albert and Logan rivers are now at risk of flooding, so they have the option to evacuate. They can stay in their homes if they are prepared, but about 20 homes there are at risk of flooding or at least seeing water up to the floorboards.
Anybody watching around Australia always knows the Gold Coast's beautiful beaches. They'll be concerned about erosion if they're thinking of a holiday up there in the near future. How have they fared in those states?
Well, look, at the moment the beaches are badly eroded, but Council has already this morning, we've seen them out there beginning the big clean-up. They haven't had the heavy machinery yet on the beaches because, well, frankly, there just wasn't much beach left, especially at high tide this morning. So they want to make sure that conditions have eased before they head out there and start reprofiling the sand dunes. But look, I mean, it's Mother Nature and it's a cycle that we go through quite regularly here on the Gold Coast. It's just a matter of waiting now for the time to be right before that clean-up can begin.
All right, thank you, Amanda, for the update on the Gold Coast. Sharon, back to you in a second. It's looking pretty smooth down here, as we said. All of our thoughts, of course, are with the people down in Grafton and particularly up north in Bundaberg. As we heard earlier, up to 7,500 people displaced from homes out there at the moment. A terrible situation for them. A massive clean-up right across the region as these floodwaters continue to fall. And the other key element to come from the EMQ press conference this afternoon, which you touched on only a short time ago there, was for the people in Queensland to conserve water at least for the next couple of days, and that doesn't mean going out and panic buying from shops, but conserving water. We have to halve the supply. I think 450 megalitres is the daily consumption. We have to halve that just until those treatment plants can get back online.
Yes, we just need to have a few shorter showers, Bill. That's the key message there. And of course, don't hose down paths. Or, of course, the people that are flood affected, they are exempt from that conservation order of water. They are allowed to clean up their properties, but anyone else, you can't water paths, you can't water your garden, all those sorts of things. In Bundaberg, you mentioned there, Bill, of course, that's still unfolding as we speak. The problem, of course, of looting, that's extraordinary, isn't it, that at places like Bargara, which is the beach near Bundaberg, that they've actually sending in extra police to try and stop looting. People are trying to profit over other people's heartache. Extra troops too, Bill, are on their way to Bundaberg, which will certainly help in the recovery effort there. I think they're hoping to get troops there within about 24 hours. They're still airlifting people out of Bundaberg. In Grafton too, 2,000 people in evacuation centres. They're talking there, the Clarence River, it has peaked, but they're not saying it's receding yet. So we'll of course bring you all the details in our afternoon news, which is coming up very, very soon, and then we'll have continued coverage here in Queensland after the afternoon news with Rebecca Madden. We'll see you then.